Welcome back. We are so excited. Our first episode is up, and we are here on our second episode of Makeup and Bridgerton.
So make sure that if you want more, I almost fell off my table there. If you want more content, Bridgerton is completely out and you can watch the whole season. If you want to get these recaps, these poorly put together synopsi, and watch two beautiful young ladies do their makeup at the same time, click that click the subscribe here. Just go ahead and click it. Like it, comment below, tell us what we missed, because we know we missed things and we know we're going to miss some things today, maybe intentionally. Bum, bum, bum.
We are going to put in our own little take on things and our reactions. So let us know what your reaction is, because I'm really curious about how other people are consuming these episodes along with us.
If you catch those nuances. And of course, we always have our little humorous take, because native humor is something else. And if you, my friend, want to get a little mug to commemorate your humor, if you want to remind yourself that native humor is something else, make sure you go to www.brittanyshulman.com/merch. Use the code QueenV, and those proceeds help go to support this channel and support, the content that we're putting out. So thank you so much to everyone who's made a purchase, and you can still get yours. Oh, they're on sale too. So 20% off the sale price. You're going to want that.
Well, let's get started.
So we're on episode 2. I got this e.l.f. lip exfoliating thing, because my lips need the exfoliation. And girl, this episode needs some exfoliation.
Oh gosh. let's not ease. Well, I don't even think the first episode eased us into anything. It was just like wham.
Yeah. So I you know what? There's one other point I wanted to bring up in this episode that we didn't talk about ahead of time. So just bear with me, and then we'll get back onto what we actually want to talk about. Is Marina's story. The best part of this episode that just tickled me so much was when the Featherington sisters, know that Marina is with child, and her mom is like, why does she have to be kept in her room? Why does she? Because her situation is catching.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. And poor old Penelope, and then Eloise, because she confides in Eloise that there's a maid in her house who's not married, who's with child, because they're like, wait, I thought you had to be married to get pregnant. And Eloise said, we got to find out. We got to find out so we don't catch it.
Right.
That whole plot line is hilarious. And that whole situation is hilarious to me. But also a signifier that we don't do enough sex education. They didn't then. But we definitely don't do enough sex education and understanding your bodies, or even pregnancy and how that works. Speaking as a mom, there were things I did not know about pregnancy until I was pregnant. So I do want to point out that I am using, I want y'all to see this delicious Dancing Bear Naturals chapstick. This is a Soothing Honey. And I really, especially like now when I exfoliate, because my lips are naturally like crepey, or I have lines in them, and it's really predominant. It's really out there now. So I like this. It's very soothing. It's almost like using the Vaseline, which I like to use. So just want to share that. Dancing Butterfly Naturals. They're chapsticks. I've got this one. I've got another one that I think's juniper or something. Amazing. And they feel so good. So anyway. That's the one plot point I wanted to just kind of giggle. It was hilarious. And then as she goes to her brother's like, I bet y'all know how it works. And her mom's like, shut up. Improper conversation with a young lady. It's like, she is old enough to at least understand the basics. Come on now. But anyway, we've got some new information.
We know that Duke took a vow in the beginning, in the first episode, that he was never going to get married, along with his little friend. And we know that oh my gosh, the girl he's pretending to be with.
Daphne.
Daphne. I mean, I always say Penelope. Penelope is somebody so different. I love Penelope. So Daphne, we know that Daphne, and him at this point are in a like a charade about being together because she wants to kind of appear more desirable, and then he's like, I am not getting married. I'm not doing this. This is not for me. No, And so we have a little bit of backstory in the second episode for that. And it's it is, of course, where we all, what are the roots of all problems usually is our
Daddy
parents,
issues.
the parents, daddy issues, mommy issues. Well, we know that Duke's mom passes away in childbirth, right after she gives birth to Duke. And then the father, then from then on, I think his abuse starts early, but my goodness, my brain, I had this all wrapped out in my brain. We don't have to do everything one by one, but we know that in his childhood, we find out in episode 2 that the young Duke has a speech impediment or a learning disability. He's brilliant and smart, and he knows what he's doing, but because of, okay,
He has
guys,
stutter.
right, he has a stutter, and so because I'm gonna roll my eyes every time we say high society, the Duke's father puts a heavy burden on this child who's just trying to learn through his speech impediment to be perfect.
He's
And
4.
then four
For the
years
first
four.
time, when they introduce that he's got this stutter, we know that he's 4. He's the age of my babies. I mean, he's a baby.
Right? And you don't know if this will go away or if it's just something. I'm using Morphe primer. I don't necessarily love it, but it's okay for now until I can get a better one. I usually like concealer, but I'm out of concealer today. Anyways, so we have a 4-year-old trying to learn how to read, and then there are rumors that actually the Duke son had actually passed away, right? Am I right?
No, once he saw he goes, and part of high society is that they don't raise their children, they give that to other people, and because he's the man, he's definitely not involved. So that's one of the few times that he goes and sees his son is when he's 4 and he's having this stutter, and he's like, what's wrong with him? He's stupid, he's an imbecile, you are dead to me, is what he says. He makes the Duke himself, his father, basically disenfranchises him, doesn't disown him outright, but he's like, you're too stupid to be my son.
And now, guys, sometimes when I'm watching a show, I get my little heart broken. My heart breaks for Duke, for Simon, because he's not the Duke yet, right? And so my heart breaks for little baby 4-year-old Simon. And then I totally understand why he's so angsty in the first episode, and he's like adamant about not getting married. He's adamant about it, and he's just a broken individual. And believe me, I know all about broken individuals.
Yeah.
Bless their hearts, because it really is a lot to be shunned by your father. But Lady Danbury swoops in and starts to take care of Duke from that age on. And
she
because
pretty much becomes his mother.
Yeah, Danbury was his mother's best friend. And so we have that whole scenario play out. The father disowns him, acts like he is a rotten individual, and it just broke my heart, that little scene right there. So yeah, that was one of our major takeaways from this episode and what it really focused on.
Yeah, and the thing is that Lady Danbury didn't just swoop in and help take care of him and raise him. She helped him completely get over that stutter. and then presented him back to his father and said, "You should be proud." And what does the old man say? "The saddest thing is that you'll be inheriting my estate." So that's the lack of love from his father because of his lack of perfection. And it was even more deep rooted than that, because they talk about how his mother she had a hard time conceiving, and then she had a hard time having children, which isn't uncommon. It's not a very uncommon thing. So there was all those issues that his father just kind of laid on him. So yeah, broken man.
Well, and I can't imagine that his father even processed the death of his partner at the time, his wife at the time, because of, I think there's a little bit of an inkling of hatred for that, because technically his birth caused her death. So we
I
don't
don't even
even
know, because he wasn't even concerned with her. He was over there celebrating that his son had been born and he had this heir, and she was dying in the next room.
right.
And he didn't even have any sort of love for her in that sense. At least in that scene. Now, you may be right that he had maybe some residual feelings, but remember that people didn't marry for love.
See, and I forget that.
They weren't in love when they got married. It was a business transaction.
Yeah.
So there is that. Yeah. It's only, and actually, really, it is only a fairly new experience to marry for love and not for a business transaction.
I
Anywho,
roll my eyes, guys. Yes, I did.
my takeaway. So here's the part where we have a lot of criticism for this particular storyline. With, it was advertised as being kind of like the Cinderella from the 90s, Rodgers and Hammerstein's sort of blind casting, where they just put the best person in the role. It didn't matter what they looked like. But in this instance, he says to his son, "We have to be extraordinary." And if you're not someone who is attuned to racial relations, you might just see that as, we were not part of, because they do have this through line, this kind of piece of, the Duke, the Duke's father was given this title and this role by the king, and they're only just being accepted because the king has said so, because the king married his wife, who's a black woman, and now they have these lords and ladies who have very high titles, because a duke is above a viscount, which is what the Bridgertons are. The Bridgertons are a viscount. The duke is above that. So you have this if you're not, again, not attuned to that conversation, you might just go, "Oh, it's just because he's new in high society." Or is it because of the race relation part in this particular place? I don't think they needed that. So then my question becomes, did they specifically pick his father as the actor as a choice, and intentionally made sure he was a character? And that's some of the criticism that a lot of folks are giving to Bridgerton. Is like, are you supposed to be this fictionalized fantasy world where race doesn't matter, and that you did this blind casting situation, or is there still this racial tone to it? And it's a little, it doesn't really answer to it. It's a little ambiguous that way.
And the thing is up until that point, and we had talked about this, is up until that point, I was excited about the blind casting, because a lot of the time with area pieces like this, you get an all white cast. And for me, it was something different. And then in that episode, they addressed that directly. And like Brittany said, if you weren't it might have been just because of a new to society. I think it's just high society in general. As far as because there are just a lot more other things. Guys, I loved Ever After and I loved all of these pieces, but they don't delve deep into kind of what it's a very romanticized version of this era. And this is the first time that and I'm really trying to think about the times that I'm realizing how the high society really worked back then. And so for me, I'm like, dang, I had to post a thing on Facebook about kind of my questions about that era because I'm like, you can misstep. My eyebrows are just crazy right now. I'm out of eyebrow pomade too. It's time to go to this makeup store. Anyways, you can just have a misstep. So is he talking about just having a simple misstep because he's fought so hard to not misstep? And that could be traumatizing for anybody in high society. I promise you, you can do something so small and offend the entire world, you know? So, but then again, it kind of bursts blind, that blind casting bubble for me when
Yeah.
that was addressed. And I was
Yeah.
excited about it.
So, I mean, it could be viewed. It could both be, and my brows look crazy, but they look crazy before I start. But it could be if it was truly a blind casting, then the statement is not necessarily the statement's about socioeconomics versus race. But if it's not a blind casting, then this is about race and socioeconomics. So that's one of the ambiguities that Bridgerton has that is unsatisfying. I don't know another way to say it. I mean, yeah, I don't own the show. I don't get to decide who's in it or who's cast or any
Yeah.
of that, and that's completely up to the companies that make these things. But it was a little bit of a letdown. So you could have left it completely ambiguous. I mean, you could have left it that you don't address it at all, and it would have been fine because it's a fantasy. We know and understand and are in it for the fantasy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was the one part of that, and then the other is there's another broken man for a woman to fix because he didn't receive love in his childhood. Oh my gosh!
Imagine that. 50 Shades.
I mean,
Oh, sorry.
yeah. Which I'm not a fan of romantic comedies or romantic movies, romantic dramedies or dramas. I love this one though because again, you throw a costume and an accent, and I'm like, oh, I love it. It's not the same somehow. Their element of reality is completely gone for me, but that's neither here nor there. So that was any other on the Duke and his backstory and his peoples?
No, I'm just yeah, no. I don't think so. That the blind casting was totally ruined for me in that moment.
So I'm now going to talk about the other big plot line in here, which is Lord Burbrook. Lord Burbrook has been trying his best since we've seen him over in episode 1. I mean, this is just episode 2. But he is all about some Daphne, and he wants to marry her, not because he loves her. I mean, he's established. He don't care about her at all. He wants her money and her position, and that will firm up his position. And he pretty much says that in this episode. Now, one of the situations Daphne is in, and one of the reasons that her and the Duke make the decision to go on this ploy is because she's not had any real offers other than Burbrook, and she doesn't want to marry him. He's already showed himself to be a cad. Let me just use some old language here. He's already showed himself that he does not a bit more care about who she is as a person. And she fortunately came from a family, or at least her parents married for love. As much love as you can be in a season in London, picking a husband. You know what I mean? Or at least they had a friendship. her parents very much were in that. So that's a very fortunate situation to be in, and the best of anything that you could hope for in that time period. And so, anywho, while the Duke and her are negotiating all of their how they're going to continue to proceed, she's saying, "You need to send flowers. I'm gonna need you to do this. You need to show up so many balls. We're gonna need to do a picnic." Lord Burbrook is just kind of like, "Wait a minute, me and your brother made a deal," and the brother's kind of baffled because he knows the Duke, and he's like, he said he wanted to get married. So what are you doing, friend? Why are you over here? And they're not letting him in on it. They're keeping it very hush lipped so that no one knows that it's a ruse at this point. The Duke and
Right.
Daphne. So Burbrook decides to use the only ammunition he has and says he will he goes and gets confronts the Duke first, because man to man, he confronts the Duke and says, "You can have anyone. I want her. Let me have her." And the Duke said, "She don't want you." He says he don't care. And he basically says, "Have you already slept with her? Is that why you'd have told me? I'll back off if she's already ruined." And the Duke's like, "She's not ruined. She just has an opinion, and she don't want you." And then he makes some sort of horrible reference to his father, and the Duke bashes his face in. So he the next day has Burbrook the next day has procured this special license to get married in 3 days' time, and tells the family that if Daphne does not agree, he will out her as having been out in garden alone with him, and the garden alone with him as a man, and will ruin her reputation. So the brother at this point, who's trying to be a good brother, I guess, I don't know, he's like, "I don't know what to do." I don't know what to do, because he will ruin you, and he's in his entitlement to, "I want what I want, and I'm going to figure out how to get what I want." This dirty, nefarious kind of dude. His entitlement is showing, and that's what Daphne's like, "I know you think you're helping, but y'all have," because the what's his face the Duke ends up telling her brother, "No, he's already tried to be a horrible human being. Don't let your sister marry him." So her brother does call it off, and that's why he does that. He goes like, "No, I'm getting what I want, and I'm going to get what I want." So in the meantime, in between time, the mother has tea with the queen. And the queen, I don't know if she, and watching it a second time, I was like, did she do that intentionally, or did the mother come up with this on her own? I'm still not exactly sure. But
I love the mother in this.
She in order to figure out what to do about Daphne's situation, to make sure she doesn't have to marry this horrible human being, she invites his mother for tea. And just like, well, we'll have this conversation and we'll see. But what she's actually doing, and her servants are part of it, is figuring out if there's any dirt to be had on this family, and there is. So they end up finding out that Lord Burbrook, has an outside child, just to use some vernacular from back home. He got a maid pregnant, and he sent her off, and he's not providing for her or the child. Now, normally in high society, that doesn't really mean a whole lot, because men did that a lot, got their help pregnant. Sometimes, but usually, they would like provide for them or make sure that they had supervisions or something. He did not. Cad, horrible human being. So the staff, go on this campaign of trying to make sure Lady Whistledown gets this information. And she does. And she publishes it and shares that Lord Burbrook has done this horrible thing and that he's a horrible human being. And so by the end of it, I am left with, women will figure out a way. Even when we didn't have power, we had power, and there was a way to figure it out, and we'd figure it out because it wasn't the brother who could do anything about it. The one with the power, it was the mama, and it was the ladies' maids, and it was the staff. And I'm like, oh, that was beautiful. That just seeing that happen, seeing that in action, that was really cool.
I love it. I love that. I love the intentional
whisper campaign.
I'm not doing this, and Mama's gonna figure it out for me. My mom, who takes orders from my brother, is gonna figure this out because they knew that they had the real information. You know.
Mm-hmm. And that was, the thing was, and the queen is on the side of Daphne. I got a hair there. The queen is on because the queen is like put her head sure bets with Daphne. She's like, this is the girl to watch. And then Daphne wasn't getting any offers. She's like, I don't like being wrong. So there's all that kind of, I'm going to use this to do my liner here. All that happening in the background. And that was the second part of this particular episode that's trying to figure out how to get away from Lord Burbrook, who is just grimy. Grimy and sees women as property, not as partners.
Right. Like, I understand that she had to do what she had to do, but like, there's gotta be some kind of, and then I feel like the whole thing about this too is that her brother was trying to be a good brother, but he wasn't trying to be a good brother. He was trying to get this over with.
Yeah, he's got other priorities, and he's like, I looked into him. He's perfectly fine, and you're like, I don't want perfectly fine when he's me as an animal.
Right.
He doesn't even see me as someone to build a life with, as someone, who's like, he's me as an animal. And I think there's an intuition there that the brother does. There's a piece the brother doesn't get because he looks at when the Duke tells him she punched him in the face because he was making advances. He goes, but my sister would have told me. And the Duke said, would she though? Because it was there and it happened, and obviously you don't know. And at that point, he's like, oh, I have been being a good brother. And I think there's a learning curve on his part. You cannot tell how pretty this purple is because it doesn't look purple. But it's really pretty.
Oh my God. My eyebrows are very, very even, and I really like them. They are not translating on the camera very well.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at. And I feel like of course, everything's running together, and I'm ready to like talk about every single aspect of the show. We are pacing ourselves. And so I just like, with everything that has happened up to this point, I'm just reeling, not to this point, like in episode 2. I'm just reeling from the just what has to be done, like I keep telling myself in my brain, like, I would not have survived this time. And I keep telling myself on a daily basis that I'm a spinster, because I had to ask Facebook because I was curious, because Daphne wasn't having any suitors or anybody who was interested except this grimy guy. And I had to ask Facebook what happens if you don't get married. Like, I really had to ask because I didn't know. And apparently you either got a job or...
No, there wasn't to be got. As a high society woman, you had no option to get a job. Only middle class women could do that, but they didn't come out in high society.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. See, I don't know things like that in the background, and it's is making me very resentful at this time. But then again, it's fantasy and it's fun, and I'd like to think that I would have just left society.
Let's be honest, we're brown women. We wouldn't have been part of society to start with.
She likes to Brittany Dream Killer at it again.
I like to live up to my name. Yeah, that's really that's the real truth. Or we would have been middle class women like Lady What's Her Face that does the dresses, or the opera singer who the old brother Anthony is in love with that he can't be with.
Yeah. I'd have been an opera singer. Just kidding. No one wants to hear that.
Oh, I mean, you could have been. You didn't have to sleep with someone, but your pay wasn't adequate.
Isn't that how they got by though? Is being an opera singer?
A lot of women women had to have means to get by, and one of the means was finding you someone who would support your lifestyle. Which is why Anthony was doing the singer in episode 1 until he finally said, I got things to do. My bad. I know I said I protect you, but I can't now. And she's at the mercy and the whims of his choice and decision. Because, I mean, what else? What are her other options? She can't afford the apartment that she's living in.
Oh my gosh.
But that storyline will continue, and we will continue to talk more about it.
Yeah, we'll continue to talk all about this because all I can think is that if I'm taking this personal, guys. I'm sorry. I'm taking it so personal. What is Daphne like 18, 19?
17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. Because her brother, I think we find out he's 22, and they go in alphabetical order. So there's Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne. She's the fourth one. And we know that Eloise is of age, but her mom's letting her sit out a year. So that means that Francesca, the other sister, and Daphne have been of age for a while. And they didn't come out. And Daphne just comes out this year. So, yeah, she's like 18, 19. 18, probably. And so she's still young enough to be desirable. Hello, pedophiles? But old enough to be ready to be married.
Butterford, whatever his name is, pedophile.
Burbrook?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Anthony is 22. We find that out a little later.
I'm learning all this
which
stuff.
Which means the Duke is 22, which made me feel better about it because I was genuinely like, dang, how old is he supposed to be compared to her? Because he is older than her. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about maybe in the next episode or the next episode.
Or the next.
When he gives her some advice.
Oh.
Ooh la la.
That's where the romance, based off a romance novel, is coming from.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm done with my look, and it's glittery.
I gotta get my lips. Get my lips together.
I don't do lips anymore.
Well, I wouldn't, except I have these beautiful lipsticks from a company that I want to promote right here, right now. I'm trying to hold them. I'm trying to do this influencer thing, but I'm not good at it. But anyway, I got these from Sultry Anarchy. So that's why I do lips now, because ooh la la.
I feel like my camera's like really kind of weird right now, but what? I got them too, and I guess I'll do lips today.
So I have a question. You ever go over, because I've seen videos where women go, instead of dipping into your Cupid's bow, you just line over it, and I feel like mine's so pronounced it looks weird. It doesn't look full. It just looks like I overlined my Cupid's bow.
I do this, pat, and then do my Cupid's bow. Is that what you mean?
No, I've seen women where they'll overline their Cupid's bow intentionally so that makes their lips look fuller. So that you have a straight, like Pocahontas line lip and not a Cupid's bow lip.
I don't do that.
Anyway, I feel like I just did. I feel like, and maybe it's supposed to make your lips look fuller. I don't have full lips to start with.
Oh, my eyes are watering.
I'm just here with what God gave me, and I'm working with it the best I can.
I didn't want to say it, but I'll say it because we're friends. I don't need to overline my lips. Why am I crooked? Why is my camera crooked? Why is it? Guys, I'm in an alternate universe. I don't know what's going on. My eyes are watering. But yeah, I never had that issue because I don't have to overline my lips to make it look fuller. So this is very berry. It's very red. It's very berry.
Yeah, see, this is a very beautiful, like bluey pink situation, but you can't tell. It just looks like a very muted orange. Everything is orange on this camera, but I'm not going to complain. So that is our synopsis of episode 2 of Bridgerton. Looking forward to episode 3. Tell us below if there's anything that we missed that we probably needed to be on top of. Yeah.
And I'm not on top of anything that happens during this era, apparently, because I've been watching romanticized versions of that era where women actually had
Autonomy and authority over their bodies. Yeah. No, you ain't. They didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with that, if there's nothing else, have a good day.
Bye.